A single police chase can change everything in seconds. What starts as a routine traffic stop can quickly spiral into chaos once a rider decides to run. From reckless escapes to shocking crashes. Here are several intense chases where one decision on the road led to outcomes nobody expected. On May 17, 2022, a high-speed pursuit unfolded in the West Hills area of Los Angeles when a motorcyclist refused to stop for police. Instead of pulling over, the rider accelerated and quickly pushed the motorcycle to extreme speeds. At one point during the pursuit, the bike was reportedly traveling at nearly 99 miles per hour as it moved through the area. Motorcycle pursuits are especially difficult for officers to manage. Riders can slip through traffic, change direction quickly, and reach dangerous speeds in a matter of seconds. For a moment, it appeared the suspect was relying on that speed to stay ahead of the police. But the situation quickly became dangerous for everyone on the road. As the rider continued through the streets of West Hills, the motorcycle weaved through traffic at high speed, forcing nearby drivers to react suddenly as the chase passed them. Incidents like this are extremely risky, not only for the suspect and officers involved, but also for the many drivers and pedestrians who may suddenly find themselves in the path of a pursuit. Despite the risk, the chase continued as the rider attempted to maintain distance from law enforcement. High-speed motorcycle pursuits rarely last long. Maintaining control of a bike at those speeds while navigating city streets requires extreme precision, and even the smallest mistake can quickly bring the situation to an end. In this case, the pursuit through West Hills became another example of how quickly a routine attempt to stop a vehicle can escalate into a dangerous situation once a rider decides to flee. As seen, the rider unexpectedly bumped into a car ahead, and that was the last of both the chase and the rider. On May 27, 2023, a stretch of Highway 70 in Arkansas suddenly became the stage for one of the most reckless motorcycle pursuits troopers had seen in months. The afternoon had been quiet until a bright orange sport bike exploded across radar at an unbelievable 144 miles per hour in a 60-mile-per-hour zone. That kind of speed isn't just illegal, it's a danger to everyone sharing the road. As soon as troopers turned around to initiate a stop, the rider doubled down instead of slowing. The KTM surged forward, engine screaming while traffic blurred past. At one point, the rider even lifted the bike into a wheelie at nearly 100 miles per hour, turning the highway into a personal stunt show while law enforcement closed the distance behind him. But speed alone couldn't guarantee escape. The pursuit continued toward a roundabout where the rider's confidence finally met reality. Approaching too fast and surrounded by vehicles, the motorcyclist lost control. The bike slammed into another car and skidded violently across the roadway before coming to a stop in twisted metal. Troopers rushed in and quickly secured the rider, later identified as 25-year-old Jacob Costley. Despite the brutal crash, he survived with only minor injuries. The aftermath revealed a long list of problems: no motorcycle license, no insurance, no registration, and no proper endorsement to even be riding the bike. The night of December 26, 2022, began with what looked like a routine traffic stop attempt on a quiet Georgia roadway. A state trooper noticed a black Kawasaki motorcycle with a broken taillight, a small violation that normally leads to a quick roadside conversation. But this rider had no intention of stopping. The moment the trooper activated his lights, the motorcycle surged forward, accelerating into the darkness and turning a simple stop into a dangerous pursuit. The bike tore down the road at high speed, engine screaming as the rider tried to create distance. Patrol units tracked the motorcycle as the chase stretched across the night highway. But as speeds climbed and pressure mounted, the rider's control began to slip. Moments later, the pursuit ended in tragedy. The motorcycle crashed violently during the escape attempt, leaving troopers rushing to the scene. Despite their efforts, the rider could not be saved. Investigators later identified the motorcyclist as 48-year-old Stephen Wilson. What officers discovered afterward explained the desperate attempt to escape. Wilson had been on the run for 6 months, wanted by federal authorities and the U.S. Marshals Service. Records showed multiple outstanding warrants, including probation violations, contempt of court, and an active escape warrant. For half a year, he had managed to stay ahead of law enforcement. But on that December night, the run finally ended. On March 3, 2022, rush hour traffic along Interstate 75 near Atlanta was already heavy when a sport bike suddenly began slicing through the lanes at extreme speed. Drivers barely had time to react as the motorcycle darted between cars, accelerating far beyond the flow of traffic. Georgia State Patrol quickly spotted the rider and attempted to pull him over. Instead of stopping, the motorcyclist twisted the throttle and pushed even harder. What began as reckless speeding quickly escalated into a multi-interstate pursuit, stretching from busy highways onto city streets. The rider moved aggressively, slipping through gaps between vehicles and blasting past exits while troopers coordinated positions over the radio. Sirens echoed across the roadway as officers tried to keep up without putting other drivers at risk. But high-speed escapes don't last forever. After several miles, the rider began to run out of options. Traffic thickened, exits narrowed, and patrol units slowly closed the distance. With nowhere left to go and fuel running low, the motorcyclist finally rolled off the throttle and pulled over. Troopers moved in carefully, ordering him off the bike before placing him in handcuffs. The rider was identified as Alexander Aldridge of Jonesboro, Georgia. Investigators soon discovered the pursuit wasn't his only problem. He also had an active warrant for failing to appear in court. What started as a reckless thrill ride through Atlanta traffic ended quietly on the shoulder of the road. The flashing lights behind him had finally caught up, proving once again that outrunning responsibility is much harder than outrunning traffic. On May 23, 2021, rush-hour traffic swirled around the busy I-75 and I-85 interchange in downtown Atlanta when two motorcycles suddenly tore through the highway at extreme speed. Drivers barely had time to react. The riders zigzagged between vehicles, slipping through tight gaps while engines screamed against the flow of traffic. Georgia State Patrol quickly spotted the reckless display and activated lights and sirens in an attempt to stop them. Instead of slowing down, both riders accelerated. The chase exploded northbound along Interstate 85, stretching across county lines as troopers coordinated through dispatch. Patrol units joined from multiple directions while the motorcycles pushed deeper into traffic, weaving aggressively to stay ahead. During the pursuit, one of the bikes managed to disappear into the chaos of the highway. Officers focused on the second rider, later identified as Tyler Arendt. The pursuit continued for miles before the motorcyclist suddenly exited the interstate, racing through city streets in a last attempt to shake the patrol units behind him. But the move only narrowed his options. Police quickly closed the distance. Within moments, officers maneuvered their vehicles to block escape routes, forcing the rider toward the shoulder. With nowhere left to run, the motorcycle slowed and came to a stop. Troopers approached cautiously and placed Arendt under arrest without further incident. He was transported to Fulton County Jail, facing charges related to the high-speed pursuit. Late on the evening of September 21, 2022, a quiet road in Forsyth County, Georgia, suddenly erupted with the sound of a motorcycle accelerating into the darkness. Deputies first noticed the bike because it had no license plate, a detail that immediately raised suspicion. When officers attempted to stop the rider, he responded with a gesture of defiance before blasting away down the roadway. Within seconds, Georgia State Patrol units were called in to assist as the chase pushed onto Ronald Reagan Boulevard, the rider twisting the throttle as if the flashing lights behind him didn't matter. The motorcycle surged forward through traffic, weaving across lanes and forcing drivers to move aside. Speeds climbed as the pursuit continued north, turning a routine patrol stop into a dangerous high-speed chase. But the rider's bold attitude soon collided with reality. Attempting to escape down a side road, the teenager lost control on a patch of loose gravel near a storage facility. The bike slid out beneath him, sending both rider and machine skidding across the ground. Troopers rushed in and quickly secured the suspect before he could try to run again. The rider was identified as 17-year-old Jacob Asendorf. Despite suffering only minor injuries, his behavior remained defiant as officers placed him in custody. He was later charged with felony fleeing, reckless driving, and multiple equipment violations. For a teenager who believed speed made him untouchable, the chase ended the same way many do, with flashing lights, handcuffs, and the realization that the road rarely rewards reckless decisions. On October 15, 2023, the crowded streets of Salvador, Brazil, became the stage for one of the most intense motorcycle pursuits captured on camera. The chase began when police attempted to stop a speeding rider weaving through narrow city roads. Instead of pulling over, the motorcyclist accelerated, darting into the dense traffic and tight alleyways that make Salvador's streets so unpredictable. What followed was a chaotic race through the city. The rider pushed his machine to the limit, swerving around cars, clipping curbs, and sliding through intersections with barely inches to spare. At one point, his passenger nearly lost her seat, clinging tightly as the motorcycle fishtailed across the pavement. Sparks flashed beneath the bike during aggressive turns, and pedestrians scrambled out of the way as the chase roared past. For several minutes, the rider seemed almost unstoppable. He zigzagged through narrow streets, using sharp corners and crowded roads to create distance between himself and the pursuing officers. But the reckless maneuvers began taking their toll. Control slipped. The motorcycle wobbled during a high-speed turn, and the rider struggled to keep the machine upright as the pursuit tightened around him. Eventually, police units closed the gap and forced the rider to stop. Officers quickly moved in, securing both the rider and his passenger before the situation could escalate further. What started as a dramatic display of riding skill ended with flashing lights and handcuffs. Some of these chases ended with arrests, while others ended in ways that completely changed the lives of everyone involved. What they all have in common is one simple truth: running from the police almost always makes the situation worse. Now, if you enjoyed this video and want to support the channel by liking and subscribing.